help, lost a few things. What do you think I might have lost? Think I can get some help from that young man? Are you willing to volunteer some help? Because you're the smartest young person here. So make sure I don't trip on the steps behind me. Tell me when to step up. All right, so if I had 10 coins and I lost one, they're not on the upper chancel. That's where the last step is. But where do you think they could be? Can you look? No, I'll give you oh, man. You can pick it up. Matter of fact, you can keep it. When you go to Canada, you can spend that. And the other 9 are over here. Because in the lesson, it said a woman had 10. Here, you want to keep all of those? Look at that. You made out like a bandit. 10 coins, and she lost one. She swept the whole place. She found it. Now, that wasn't too hard. But now I've lost my lamb, too. What do you think? Anybody see the lamb? Oh, all right. We'll just leave that lamb there. It looks like it's shy. Thank you. You can buy a, well, I'll leave that to your parents to help you figure out what to do with the coins you found. Now, raise your hand if you've ever been lost. Oh, wow. Okay. We got a lot of losers here. No, terrible thing to say. How many of you got lost when you were younger, maybe his age or sometime, and it really scared you? I can still feel that fear. About his age. Brooklyn, New York. I knew where I lived, 130 Moore Street, apartment 11A. Could memorize it. I knew the telephone number and everything. And I knew I could get home from the market. It was just across the street. But for some reason, I wandered. A policeman found me, took me to the precinct, called my parents. They came and got me. I wasn't but a few blocks away. But when you're young, it's hard. How many of you have had that experience recently, feeling lost and becoming afraid? Not so many. Now, I got a Smarty Pants phone here, and I rarely get lost now because I can type in Tim Hortons and go from Stephen and Aaliyah's house right to Tim Hortons. Look at that. Start. You know how it works. I didn't get lost. What really screwed me up is coming out and then turning like this and missing the road that went that way and going like this and then doing this and finally going, because we don't have quite those kind of intersections where I live. They're great, but just not what I'm used to. So this morning's talk is about being a loser. What's a loser? Somebody who loses. What's somebody who loses? Somebody who's lost. What have you lost? And about loss. We will all experience loss, won't we? We have all experienced loss. Our parents may be gone now. We've lost them into the other world. Sooner or later, we will do that trip, and the people that love us who are younger and still here will have lost us. So when the parable of the lost coin and the lost sheep, the lost coin represents the loss of our idealism. Silver or money in the word represents the things that we exchange that are of value, the ideas that we have. And we gain idealism through the things that we believe in as we're younger that seem really, really important. And we call them our ideals, our values, our mores, our morals. And they become spiritual values the older we become, but we can lose those ideals. And many of us may look back at when we're younger and go, I was much more idealistic then than I am now. The world has tainted the way I think. I still believe in the Lord. I still believe in following the things that are in the Word, but I'm not so idealistic. We lose idealism. Do we gain it in heaven? Are the angels idealistic? What do you think? Think about it. The innocence of the sheep. We know it. Sheep stand for innocence, and we lose our innocence. So many different ways. We're innocent in the way little children are, willing to follow, not knowing all the bad, evil things in the world. And along with our idealism, oftentimes we lose our innocence. And there are other things that can happen to us where our innocence is violated and ruined. We can lose that innocence. Do the angels regain their innocence in heaven? You might have an easier answer for that than you did about idealism. Yes, because genuinely speaking, innocence is willingness to follow the Lord. You're going to follow the Lord. You're not going to follow your own way. So you lose your idealism, you lose your innocence. The Lord can regain those things in you, can give them to you. They were never yours to begin with. If they're genuine and real, they're His. They're divine qualities. It's the divine of heaven, the divine of the Lord that makes heaven, nothing of the angels. So if you're thinking you're going to help heaven out by being a good person, you're lost. You're on the wrong track. Nothing of our own makes heaven. The divine of the Lord is gifted to us. We can lose it, but the Lord will never not be with us. So finally, the story of the lost son. Who's lost in this story? How many people can you count as being lost? Well, obviously the young son goes out into the world, spends his money in riotous living. His older brother, what about him? Is he lost? He's the one, in the parable kind of way of talking, he's the one who the Lord's speaking to. He's the one the lesson is about. Let's go back to the beginning of this chapter 15. Sinners. Sinners. Who's a sinner? We're all sinners. Sinners, publicans. What's a publican? That's a person that collects money for the government. People who work for government, you know how rotten they are, right? Sinners, publicans, lowlifes. They're coming around the Lord. Why? Because He's teaching them about love. He's loving them with tenderness and caring. He's teaching them about what it is to be a true Jew or Christian, as the Jews will become Christians as they follow Jesus Christ. He's teaching them. Now, it helps that He's giving them food and performing miracles and healing them, but don't all of us kind of get our attention first captured by something because it's actually naturally beneficial or satisfying, and then we realize the spiritual benefits of them? The Lord makes pretty much all of us a little bit better looking when we're younger. Think about Alan Cowley. He's, 30 years younger than me. I used to look as handsome as him. Someday he'll look like, let's not hope that. We're younger and we are gentle and prettier and handsomer, good lookinger. We're attractive. People look at us. Perhaps a young lady walks into the room and people look. If you're in your 80s, do people stare at you like they did when you were 20? Probably not the same way. The Lord gives us that gift of beauty, attractiveness, for a number of reasons. But it's the matrix in which conjugal love can begin. You don't have to be beautiful or handsome to have conjugal love, or even to be attractive on a natural sense, because it's really the inner beauty. But you can lose that. You can lose it through your body aging, that outside beauty and attractiveness, but you can lose it long before your body ages just by becoming wasteful in living, spending your time on things that are lewd and rude. The Lord taught those people, come back to me. And guess who didn't like it? The scribes and the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Sanhedrin, the leaders of the church, the people that walked around in robes. And what did they do? They pointed to Jesus and said, look, he's eating and drinking and hanging out with those people. You know, those people. And that's what the parable was about. Lost coin, they've lost their idealism. The lost innocence, they lost their sheep. And the lost son is the story of the second son. They are the second son. They're the older ones. They're the ones who say to the Lord, I'm going to fold my hands across this microphone because I want to look angry. I want to look like I'm blocking you. I want to look like I know what I'm talking about. That's what we do when we fold our arms across our chest, generally in body language terms. They're the self-righteous people. Now, whenever the Lord preaches, teaches, whenever anything is written in the Word, it's written to you. There's a principle that the Word is written for the individual person. There's lots of history, there's lots of geography, there's lots of social things written in the Word, but the Word ultimately is written for you and me to get a direct lesson out of it. So all the characters in this parable and in this story are features of us, aren't they? All of us have been lost on some level, like the younger son, and all of us can become self-righteous and indignant at those people around us who aren't behaving properly and be like the older son. Hagar got lost in that earlier story. She's running away because Sarai is treating her harshly. And I love that she's sitting by a well of water, a spring of water, living water. That means a spring. And the Lord asks her, Hagar, basically, what are you doing? Where are you coming from and where are you going? And that's what the Lord asks each one of us. We get upset, we run away, we escape, and the Lord's still with us. What are you doing? Well, I'm fleeing from the presence of my mistress. She's treating me harshly. Go back to her. You're going to have a great nation. Ishmael shall be born. He will have his hand against all, and all will be against him. And by golly, if you look at that area now, you'll see it's still going on. Ishmael, Isaac, two factions of a family that descended and are the people that live there. A lot of fighting. But anyway, she's going to have Ishmael. It stands for our first rational development, where we're kind of self-righteous and indignant when other people don't do what we think they should, because we're 17 or 18 and we know everything. Or we're 43 or we're 68 or whatever. And we have that part of us that just wants to be right and fight. The mother of that is all of our knowledges, the Egyptian mother Hagar. We know everything. We've been studying these teachings from the Word for a long time, and we can become that person who's lost, Hagar, the older son who's lost, the scribes, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, who know it all, studying it for a lifetime. So she sits and she hears the Lord's word, and she says, I'm going to name this place being seen by the one who sees me. I want you to think about that. The Lord sees you. And wherever you are, you're being seen by the one who sees you, and you see him if you acknowledge and can turn your mind. There's a special word in the writings. I studied it several times. I'm not really good. For somebody who's got a master's degree, I can't read. Animadvert. It's pretty simple. Animus, the mind, advert, turn, anim and adverse, the noticing or turning or observing of something going on in your life. She noticed that God noticed her, and she named that place, the one who sees me and I see him and I live. We can all get lost. We can all be the older son or the younger son. We can also be like the father in the parable. have that divine grace and blessing and love that reaches out to others, even if they've really behaved badly. And we've all had that. We've perhaps been that badly behaving child at home, or perhaps we have a badly behaving brother or sister or daughter or husband or wife or whoever. The Lord always sees. He's the one who sees. The son comes to himself and he says, "What am I doing?" He has a turning of his mind. What am I doing? I'm starving. I'm ready to eat pig food. And for a Jew to be amongst pigs, but to eat their food, you have hit bottom. You've really hit bottom, if that's the spiritual state you're in. What am I doing? He comes to himself, his higher self. And he says, how many of my father's hired servants have bread enough to spare? And here I starve. I know what I'll do. I'll go back to my father. I'll say, Father, I've sinned against you and against heaven. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So he's trudging back from the pig fields far away. He might have gone out there on a horse or in a carriage because he was really rich, remember? The wealth of his father, and he spent it all, and now he's in tatters, dirty with pig manure and pig food and the pig smells, and he's walking back. He looks like that ragged person on the street that you want to avoid, right? Something in you says, not safe, not clean. I always get emotional when I think about this father. Those of you who are parents, mothers or fathers, you know how much you care about your children. You know how worried you become when they're out there and you haven't heard from them for a long time. Maybe that's not your story, but there were no phones. There were no means of communication like we have instantaneously. The father sees him from far, far away. He's been waiting. Because that's what the Lord's doing for each one of us. Is he's waiting, he's watching, he's looking for you. Never gave up. Never gives up. And when he sees him, he runs to him. And he hugs him, he falls upon his neck, he kisses him, he tells the servants, bring out a robe, clothe this person, put sandals on his feet, and give him a ring. That ring would signify you're my son. Give him the household signet, the thing that says, you belong to me. Because you were lost and you're now found. You were dead and you're alive again. Very powerful to be forgiven for all those things you did, we did, I did, and will continue to do, but there are things worse in the past I hope never to repeat again in the present or future. Perhaps you have that experience as well. And the Lord is running to come to you, to kiss you and hold you like you're a little baby, returning all your innocence and idealism, all your lostness, and saying, you're mine. When we do a baptism, we put the sign of the cross on the chest and the forehead. It's like that ring. It signifies, you are mine. And that's all the Lord wants, is for you to come to him so he can say, you are mine. Perhaps even more powerful, it's now he's talking to the scribes and Pharisees when he tells the story of the older son, who hears all the fun and joy. And the Lord has already given that indication. I think I'm going to wind up here pretty soon. It's a family talk, not a full-length lecture. The woman who sweeps the house, she says, rejoice with me, and there's more joy in heaven over one lost sinner. The lost sheep, man says, rejoice with me, and the Lord says there's more joy in heaven over one returning compared to the 99 that are already present. in heaven. More joy. The angels are so overwhelmed with joy. Somebody's returned to him, to heaven. The Lord's already given those prefaces in the first two parts of this story. So he comes to the older son, and he's speaking to the scribes and Pharisees because they're the ones that are like, all that fun and joy for this loser? What about me? And our culture just works that one. What about me? What do I get? Those losers, what about me? So glad I'm watching the Olympics, and they're not doing what they used to do 10 or 15 years ago. All they would do is count up and tell you every time an American got a gold medal. That's all they would do. And they're a little bit gentler now. It's like, okay, there's a whole world of people competing. It's not all about the United States. But we in America, we have a tendency to go, it's all about us. We're the best. We need this lesson, the older son lesson. To stop being self-righteous and entitled, not just as citizens of the United States or any country, but as members of the church, as members of the Lord's kingdom. You want to be the older brother? You might be the older brother. You might be the one that's always done what's right and good, never got into trouble. You weren't the one acting out. Is the Lord less loving to that one? Does the father come out and say, well, if you're going to be that way, fine, stay out here, we're going to have fun? No. He says, son, you are always with me. Everything I have is yours. Think about the Lord saying that to you. Child, you are always with me. Everything I have is yours. That's the Lord's message to us sitting in this church, to us sitting out on the street, to us trying to get a gold medal at the Olympics, to us losing, to the thousands of people that don't get it all. You are always with me. Everything. That divine love is so powerful. Everything I have is yours. The fullness of the divine makes heaven what it is. The angels constitute it. It's divine love flowing down. Everything that the Lord can possibly give, he gives to us as members of the church, as wasteful sons, as loser farmers and sheep herders. Everything, it's all yours. It's all yours. Powerful message to the self-righteous, not just the prodigal, but the self-righteous, to all of us. Yea, though I take the wings of the morning and I fly to the uttermost parts of the sea, thou art with me. If I make my bed in hell, the psalmist says, you are with me. You can't get away from the Lord. He's the one who's sitting by that spring of water, who sees you and you can see him. He's the one who's watching from afar to see you return from a lost state of self-righteousness or indignation or some other disorder or evil, and he's going to run to you. He's going to throw himself on your neck. He's the one that's going to come out to you when you're in a state of some sort of entitlement, thinking you're better than other people, and he's going to say, it's right that we should rejoice, for your brother who was lost is found, who was dead is alive. We thank the Lord for that message of being loved by him, being seen by him who sees us and we can see him, who never calls us a loser, but always my child, and gives us everything that he can. Amen.